Okay, let's unpack this. We are tackling, truly, one of the greatest organizational feats in ancient history.
It's incredible when you stop to think about it.
It really is. The sheer volume of this material is just staggering, and our mission today is to provide you, the learner, with a shortcut, a way to get your head around its almost labyrinthine structure.
And that's a good word for it, because when people talk about sacred texts, they often imagine a single massive book, one volume.
Right.
But when we talk about the foundational scriptures of Buddhism, we're talking about something else entirely. The sources often summarize it with this almost mythic number, 84,000 components of the Dharma.
84,000. It sounds impossible.
Well, it points to the scale, the complexity, and just the sheer intellectual dedication involved. We're not just looking at a pile of books.
So what are we looking at?
We are diving deep into the architecture of knowledge, specifically the Tipitaka, which translates to the three baskets. That number, 84,000, it's really an expansive way of expressing immensity. It tells you how comprehensive and multifaceted the teachings are.
It's not a literal count, then?
Not a literal count of books, no. It's more about the scope. This isn't just a large collection of random sermons. It's a sophisticated, meticulously organized knowledge system. And it was designed not just for, preservation,
but for use.
For the precise transmission and practical application of that knowledge across millennia. It's a structure built in a way to defeat information decay.
So if you're trying to grasp this immense system quickly, you need a map, a really detailed map, not just a high-level overview. And that is precisely our mission for this deep dive. We are going to synthesize the core structure, focusing heavily on those three main divisions, the three baskets. And we're going to analyze the intricate numerical classifications that our source material provides. Because these numbers, they aren't just trivia. They're like the intellectual fingerprint of the organizational effort that guaranteed this wisdom would survive.
That's a great way to put it.
We need to explain not just what the structure is, but really dig into why it was built this way in the first place.
Right.
So let's start at the very beginning with that foundational metaphor. Why are they called baskets, pitaka, in the first place?
Right.
And how does that organizational metaphor inform us about what they contain?
Yeah.
It sounds a little, agricultural, but it implies utility, storage.
It's actually very practical. The term pitaka literally means basket. Historically, these texts were recorded on palm leaf manuscripts.
Okay.
And these manuscripts were then stored in three large containers or baskets. So the name literally became the organizing principle for the content that was held inside them.
So form follows function, literally.
Exactly. But symbolically, it's also very powerful. The basket is the vessel that holds and transmits a specific type of teaching, and each one is necessary for the complete spiritual journey. When you define these three main categories, as our sources do, you immediately see the comprehensive, holistic nature of the entire Dharma.
And what are those three essential vessels? What's in each one?
The structure is intentionally balanced, very carefully balanced.
Okay.
First, we have the basket of discipline. In Pali, that's the Vinaya Pitaka.
Vinaya, discipline, got it.
This basket is dedicated entirely to the practical rules and regulations for the monastic community, the Sangha. It details everything. From major offenses that would get you expelled, all the way down to minor points of etiquette.
So it's the legal code.
It's the external framework. Its focus is on right action and ethical conduct. Then second, you have the basket of discourses, or the Sutta Pitaka.
Discourses. This sounds like the core teachings.
It is. This is the narrative heart of the tradition. It contains the collected sermons, the dialogues, the parables, and all the practical teachings delivered by the primary teacher. This is the manual on how to practice. It focuses on concentration, development of the mind, and applying ethics in a real way.
Okay, so we have the rules, and now the instructions. What's the third?
The third is the basket of higher doctrine. This is the Abhidhamma Pitaka.
Higher doctrine. That sounds dense.
It is. This is the analytical, the philosophical dimension. It systematically analyzes reality, consciousness, mind, and matter. It provides the deepest possible intellectual insight into the nature of existence itself.
Wow, that's a remarkably clear division of labor. You have conduct, instruction, and then deep philosophy. If we, connect this to the bigger picture, it feels like the structure itself is a teaching tool.
It absolutely is.
This tripartite division ensures that the core knowledge system balances three essential components for the spiritual path, right? Conduct from the Vinaya, then concentration, which you get from the suttas.
Right, they provide the instruction for it.
And then deep insight, which comes from the Abhidhamma, that ultimate philosophical map.
Exactly. The structure mandates interdependence. A practitioner can't just be, a philosopher lost in the Abhidhamma without maintaining the ethical conduct of the Vinaya.
And you can't just follow rules blindly.
You can't, not if you want to make progress. You need to understand the doctrine in the suttas. The 3 baskets represent a complete curriculum. It moves you from establishing a stable external environment to giving you the internal instruction manual, and then finally offering the blueprint of ultimate reality.
It's a system.
It's a system that guarantees the path is practical, ethical, and intellectually rigorous all at once.
It also shows that this tradition, even at its earliest stages, was concerned with institutional stability, with educational method, and with ultimate truth, all at the same time. It's so much more than just a theological archive. It's an operational manual for an entire way of life.
Okay, let's dedicate some serious time now to that first basket, Vinaya Pitaka.
Exactly. For many people on the outside, the Vinaya just seems like this endless list of restrictions. Hundreds of rules for monks, even more for nuns. But if we look at it through the lens of, say, organizational science, it's about maintaining a stable, unified infrastructure.
Absolutely. The Vinaya Pitaka is the institutional bedrock. It ensures that the Sangha, which had the massive responsibility of preserving all these teachings,
Right, they were the guardians of it.
that they remained a cohesive, functional unit dedicated to its purpose. Without that institutional integrity, the wisdom in the other 2 baskets would have just scattered and vanished. It wouldn't have survived.
So how is it organized? How do you make sense of hundreds of rules?
Well, our source material gives us a very strong structural clue about how this massive volume of rules is categorized. It explicitly lists the Vinaya Pitaka as comprising 8 distinct sections or parts.
8 sections. Okay.
And that's highly significant. It tells us the rules aren't just, listed chronologically as they came up. They're categorized based on their function, their severity, and the specific procedures they govern.
8 divisions isn't accidental. It has to be a systematic breakdown of organizational need. So what purpose do those 8 parts serve? How do they move beyond just forbidding actions?
Well, those 8 parts function as a comprehensive legal and ethical code for what is essentially a self-governing spiritual community.
I see.
While a major part of the Vinaya is something called the Patimokkha, which is the foundational list of core rules that are recited regularly.
Like a public declaration of the code.
Precisely. But the 8 sections encompass much more than just those prohibitions. We can deduce that these sections regulate very distinct areas. So one section would deal with the most serious offenses, the ones that lead to expulsion.
The big ones.
The big ones. Others deal with lesser offenses that might require confession or some form of penance. And this is crucial. One major block of text deals with procedural rules. This is the often overlooked infrastructure.
Procedural rules. That sounds like, it sounds like spiritual bureaucracy.
It is, and bureaucracy is absolutely essential for stability in any long-lasting organization.
I suppose that's true.
These sections dictate how the Sangha handles all its administrative tasks. How to ordain new members, how to hold the communal meetings, how to deal with distributing communal property like robes or medicine.
All the day-to-day stuff.
And most importantly, how to conduct judicial proceedings. Our core content highlight from the sources specifically points to the need for texts that address conflict resolution and disputes.
So it's not just a static list of don'ts.
Not at all. It's a dynamic manual for managing human interaction within a confined, committed environment. The 8 sections organize procedures for formally addressing breaches, for reconciling disagreements, and for ensuring that no single individual or, some small group can unilaterally disrupt the community's harmony.
It's like they anticipated all the possible points of failure in an organization. But given that level of strict detail, was there ever a conflict in the tradition over economy, over whether following these rules became an end in itself? Did the organization sometimes overshadow the insight?
That's the core tension, and the 3-basket structure itself is the answer. The Vinaya, the conduct, must always be viewed in relation to the suttas, the concentration, the instruction.
Oh, right.
If someone follows the rules perfectly but lacks true insight or concentration, then they're just practicing what's called mere morality.
Empty actions.
Right. The 8-fold structure ensures the rules are applied correctly, but the Sutta Pitaka is always there to remind the practitioner why they're following the rules in the first place, to free the mind, not just to look pure on the outside.
I see. It's a check and balance system.
It is. And the specific examples you find in the sources detail appropriate conduct in all these varied environments. Rules for interacting with lay people, rules for traveling, rules for accepting alms. It shows an emphasis on maintaining the integrity of the institution, not just internally, but in how it interfaces with the external world.
So the 8 sections provide the external order that is necessary to cultivate internal freedom.
That's the goal.
It really is the spiritual constitution then. If that constitution failed, the ability to preserve the discourses and the philosophy, the suttas and the Abhidhamma would have been impossible. The Vinaya, by defining acceptable boundaries and enforcing organizational stability, acts as the primary container, the thing that guarantees the knowledge's survival across thousands of years. Here's where it gets really interesting for me. We transition from the rules of conduct, the Vinaya, to the instruction manual for internal liberation, the Sutta Pitaka.
The heart of the matter.
Yes. This basket contains the actual words of the teacher, the stories, the parables, and the practical guidance that translates this abstract philosophical path into actionable daily wisdom.
The Sutta Pitaka is, by volume, the largest and the most varied of the 3 baskets, and its organization really reflects that scope. The organizational effort here is it's incredible because it's structured to make this vastness navigable.
How do you even begin to organize thousands of teachings?
The sources detail its division into several major groups, which are traditionally known as nikayas or collections. These are then further subdivided into smaller sections called vagas.
Okay, so nikayas are the big collections.
Right, and for the learner trying to grasp the scale, we really have to name these 5 primary nikayas because they represent that first crucial layer of organization.
Let's see them.
Okay, so first you have the Digha Nikaya. That's the long collection.
Long, as in the discourses themselves are long.
Exactly. It contains the longest, most extensive discourses. They often deal with grand narratives, very detailed philosophical concepts, or major events in the teacher's life. Then you have the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle collection.
Okay, long, middle, makes sense.
A collection of medium-length discourses, and these are renowned for their doctrinal clarity and their practical depth. They often focus on meditation and core doctrines.
So more focused than the long ones.
Generally, yes. The third is the Samyutta Nikaya, which is the connected collection.
Connected how?
The discourses are grouped by theme or topic. So you might have a whole collection of talks focused purely on the topic of the 5 aggregates, or another on the 4 noble truths. It connects all the related teachings in one place.
That's brilliant for study.
It's incredibly practical. Fourth is the Ambuttara Nikaya, the numerical collection.
Numerical.
Yes. The discourses here are grouped purely by the number of items they discuss. So you have teachings about 1 thing, 2 things, 3 things, and so on, all the way up.
Wait, really? So if a teaching was about the 4 foundations of mindfulness, it would be in the 4 section?
That's exactly right. It's a mnemonic device, a powerful organizational tool for a culture based on oral transmission.
That is just wow. And the 5th?
The 5th is the Khuddaka Nikaya, the minor collection. And minor here doesn't mean unimportant. It's the most eclectic. It's a bit of a catch-all, containing a wide array of miscellaneous texts, poetry, moral fables, specific short manuals, things that didn't fit the other organizational schemas.
So they categorize the teachings not just by length, but by theme and by numerical content. It's like a highly indexed, cross-referenced library system centuries before Gutenberg.
It is.
But let's zoom in on the specific organizational details mentioned in the source material, because that's where the numerical classifications really tell the story of the effort.
Absolutely. The sources list these various internal divisions, the Vagas, which are smaller, often genre-based collections within the Nikayas. This system reveals the really pragmatic approach the compilers took to group similar material together for study and for memorization.
Okay.
And we see 4 main categories of these internal collections highlighted in the material: the small, the middle, the great, and the miscellaneous.
And the sources give us numbers for these.
They do.
Yeah.
And analyzing the volume count of these collections tells you a lot about their function. First, you have the small collection, which has 41 sections.
41. That's a lot.
It's the largest numerical group by far. And these texts generally focus on foundational teachings. Short, concise advice, often pithy verses or key ethical doctrines. They were likely intended for a broad audience or as quick reminders for daily practice. The large number suggests high practical utility and accessibility.
So the entry point for many people.
You could see it that way.
Yeah.
Then you have the middle collection, which has 13 sections.
Okay, down from 41 to 13.
Right. This group moves toward more advanced discourses and parables. These texts often detail more nuanced dialogues where the teacher is answering specific complex questions about advanced doctrine or stages of the path. The smaller number implies a more focused, dedicated study group.
And the escalation continues into the most critical material, I'm guessing.
It does, which is reflected in the significantly smaller section counts. Third is the Great Collection, with only 10 sections.
Just 10.
This collection is dedicated to the most complex, major topics. These are the cornerstone discourses, often the longest ones, that might cover the entire path to liberation in immense detail, or address major cosmological and metaphysical questions. Their weight and scope justify the small number. These are the texts that serious students would dedicate years to mastering.
The majors.
The majors. And finally, you have the Miscellaneous Collection, also with 10 sections.
What's its purpose?
This group served a vital archival function. It contains verses, specific disciplinary rules that are only applicable in certain situations, or short stories that didn't fit neatly into the systematic organization of the other three. This ensures completeness. No teaching gets lost just because it didn't align with the primary categorization system.
This breakdown, 41, 13, 10, and 10. It gives the learner a perfect progressive path. You start wide with 41 foundational teachings, you narrow your focus to 13, and then you dedicate your deepest attention to the 10 major cornerstones. It's built-in curriculum design.
That's the genius of it. And within these collections, the content itself is designed to be highly memorable and practical. Our sources highlight several crucial content genres within the Sutta Pitaka that really engage the student.
Like what?
Well, there are texts related to Jataka, or birth stories. These are powerful pedagogical tools.
The fables.
Right. They're moral fables, often humorous or dramatic, illustrating ethical principles through the previous lives of the central figure. They make abstract morality tangible and relatable. They provide ethical context that resonates universally.
They provide the moral history, the why behind the ethical teachings.
Exactly. Then you have extensive texts that detail the path to enlightenment and the stages of spiritual development. These are the practical manuals.
The how-to guides.
The real how-to guides. How to cultivate specific virtues, how to overcome obstacles in meditation, and the precise steps a practitioner must take toward liberation. They move beyond mere suggestion and offer a structured process.
And what else?
And finally, a huge part of the Sutta Pitaka is composed of dialogues and answers to questions. Whether the inquiries are coming from kings or farmers or skeptical ascetics, these dynamic exchanges provide context and nuance.
So you see the teachings applied in real time.
You do. They clarify the application of the doctrine in all these different real-world scenarios, which makes the teaching highly adaptable. So the Sutta Pitaka is this accessible narrative and instructional layer that prepares the practitioner for the ultimate analytical challenge, which is the Abhidhamma.
Okay, so we've established the external rules with the Vinaya and the instructional narrative with the Sutta. Now we transition to that third basket, the Abhidhamma Pitaka, which is the systemic backbone.
It is.
If the suttas are the speeches telling you what to do, the Abhidhamma feels like the technical outline breaking down the fundamental components of existence, explaining how it all works at the quantum level of consciousness.
That's a very good analogy. The Abhidhamma, the higher doctrine, is about the intellectual mastery of reality. It moves entirely beyond conventional language, which so often relies on narrative or personhood.
No more stories.
No more stories. It's an intensive attempt to analyze reality in its ultimate sense, or paramatha, free of any contextual bias. And our source material reinforces this incredible organizational rigor. It lists the Abhidhamma Pitaka as having 11 distinct sections or parts.
11 sections, just for the philosophical analysis. That's a powerful indication of the necessary detail. Why 11, and how does this material structurally and functionally diverge from the suttas?
The 11 sections are really indicative of the scope of the systematic effort. The canonical Abhidhamma is often summarized as having 7 foundational books.
Okay.
And each of those is dedicated to a different type of systematic breakdown, like classifications of phenomena, or the origin of causal relations, or a compilation of elements. The additional sections likely represent crucial introductory texts, summaries, or maybe foundational commentaries that are required to correctly interpret the complexity of those 7 primary texts.
And the functional divergence, how different does it feel?
Oh, it's radical. A Sutta might say, don't be angry.
Right. A simple instruction.
The Abhidhamma says, at this specific moment, a consciousness arises, paired with 5 specific destructive mental factors, like aversion and confusion, that collectively constitute the experience we label anger. and it lasts for a microsecond before dissolving.
Wow.
The focus is on pure philosophical and psychological analysis, presented in these incredibly precise categories, matrices, and numerical listings.
It sounds like they developed a highly advanced ancient scientific taxonomy for the mind. But what is the practical goal of this excruciating, almost robotic breakdown of every single experience? Why does the learner need to know the 52 mental factors?
That is the crucial question, and the answer is you care because this is the ultimate guide to self-analysis. It is aimed at eliminating the root of all suffering, which is delusion.
How does it do that?
The core concept is the systematic analysis of reality into these momentary, impersonal constituent parts, which are called dharmas, not to be confused with dharma as the overall teaching. The Abhidhamma dismantles the illusion of permanence. We cling to the idea of a permanent self or a permanent thing. The Abhidhamma, across its 11 sections, meticulously breaks down the mind and the world into these constituent, momentary, and selfless processes.
So it's deconstruction.
Total deconstruction. By seeing reality as just a flow of impersonal mental and material events, no subject, no object, just processes, the delusion that feeds attachment is cut at its root. It's a tool for spiritual surgery. It provides the precise knowledge needed to dismantle the ego's projections.
That's a great analogy. So if the suttas are the high-level map of the journey, the Abhidhamma is the detailed schematic of the vehicle and the terrain. It ensures the traveler understands exactly what they are made of and what the world is made of.
Precisely. For instance, one section might categorize all the different types of consciousness, the siddhas, based on their moral quality, wholesome, unwholesome, or neutral. Another might detail the 28 types of matter, or rupa. This isn't abstract intellectualism for its own sake. It provides the precise objects upon which meditative insight must focus to achieve liberation.
I see.
Without this systematic framework, the understanding you gain from the suttas remains vulnerable to misinterpretation based on our conventional, everyday thinking.
So the structural organization itself, the fact that they created 11 distinct sections, tells us that classifying consciousness and reality was seen as this multi-layered undertaking. It requires 11 different perspectives or lenses to achieve a complete, non-diluted view of existence. So we've navigated the functional breakdown of the three baskets. Now I want to shift our focus to the raw metrics, the organizational tools themselves.
Nuts and bolts.
Exactly. We need to appreciate the sheer dedication to cataloging this knowledge, which is where our sources provide some fascinatingly specific numbers. This tells us that the structure is just as important as the content.
What's fascinating here is the evidence that the organization wasn't arbitrary at all. It was an exhaustive, academic, and also a spiritual endeavor designed for perfect fidelity during transmission. We're moving beyond the high-level baskets to look at their ancient knowledge management system.
Okay, let's start with the scale indicated by the source count. The sources mention a very specific total number of texts that were recognized in a particular classification group.
Indeed. In specific classification groups, related primarily to the Abhidhamma and that extensive Khuddaka Nikaya, the minor collection of discourses, the source mentions a total count of 605 sources.
605.
605, and that figure is just astonishing. It's not just the number of major books, it's the number of individual catalog texts, sermons, or analytical sections that had to be referenced, indexed, and preserved within that one compilation system.
So 605 distinct knowledge units.
Yes. That speaks volumes about the meticulous nature of the task and the institutional memory required to maintain it.
What other numbers do we have?
Well, we also see metrics for the internal structure within major compositions. Our notes indicate that one section related to a primary text contains 40 chapters or sections.
40 chapters.
40. Which feels like a standard required length to cover a complex subject thoroughly, right? You could organize philosophical material chronologically or thematically across 40 units. It shows that the internal structure of a single text was given just as much organizational care as the structure of the entire canon.
And then there's that symbolic yet still quantitative organizational unit, the number 108.
Yes. Our sources indicate that one complete system of classification contains 108 sections or components. Now, 108 is a deeply symbolic number in many Eastern traditions, but here it also serves as a measure of completeness.
Completeness of what?
It signifies a full cycle of study. It likely represents the 108 essential methods or perspectives or components of the Dharma that were deemed necessary for a complete education or full mastery of a particular topic, like meditative practice. It means the system itself defined the boundaries of a full curriculum numerically.
The takeaway here for the listener is that this is a pre-digital database system and it was optimized for human memory and oral transmission. Let's look at the different modes of study and access detailed in our sources, because they show how this organizational depth translated into practical teaching.
Absolutely. The system was multi-layered, and it was designed for a serious student. The whole structure facilitated memorization and rapid retrieval, suggesting that several types of classification were paramount.
What's the first one?
First, classification by genre text type was critical. Students immediately knew if the text they were reciting was a specific verse collection, a gatha, or a narrative and moral fable, a jataka, or a detailed philosophical commentary, an athakatha.
So knowing the genre immediately established the context.
And the tone and the authority of the material, it's incredibly helpful. If you're debating doctrine, you need to cite a sutta. If you're teaching morality to children, a jataka story works much better.
Right. What's the next mode?
Second, there was classification by format structure. We saw this already with the Digha, long, Majjhima, middle, and Khuddaka, short miscellaneous Nikayas, but this extended down to the text level.
So short, medium, or long?
Exactly. Designating formats of the discourses was crucial for assigning study blocks and memorization tasks. A monk wouldn't accidentally schedule the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, which is one of the longest discourses in the Great Collection, for a quick half-hour review session. The format tells you the commitment required.
Yeah, the third.
And finally, classification by source reference. This is the ancestor of modern cross-referencing. This allowed scholars to track doctrinal linkages and comparisons between the primary texts and their later commentaries.
So you could follow a concept through the entire body of work.
Precisely. If a rule in the Vinaya seemed unclear, this referencing system ensured they could trace the original rationale back through the suttas, or clarify the terminology using the Abhidhamma. The entire system was designed not just to store knowledge, but to facilitate its mastery and ensure doctrinal consistency across this vast archive.
So those 605 catalog sources, the 40 chapters, the 108 components, they aren't just arbitrary numbers. They are the evidence of an ancient commitment to creating a flawless, multi-layered indexing system that ensured every single piece of wisdom had its designated place and its function. That level of dedication is just breathtaking. Hashtag tag outro.
What an incredible deep dive into structure. I mean, we covered the massive scope of the Tipitaka, starting with the functional necessity of those three baskets, discipline, discourse, and doctrine. And then we drilled down to the impressive numerical counts. The 8 sections ensuring organizational stability in the Vinaya, the 11 analytical sections that underpin the Abhidhamma.
And that breathtaking total of 605 distinct sources within just one system of classifications. And to bring this back to you, the learner.
Yeah.
Understanding this precise hierarchical structure provides a necessary map. It's what prevents information overload.
When you face the scale implied by 84,000 teachings, it is this systematic structure, the 3 baskets, the 5 Nikayas, and the dozens of detailed numerical vagas that makes the knowledge accessible and manageable. The goal of such precise organization is, at the end of the day, accessibility and clarity, built for the serious student.
So what does this all mean? It means these ancient texts are organized with a level of rigor and detail that fundamentally defines their content. The commitment to dividing and classifying every single discourse, every rule, and every philosophical concept into these numerical and categorical baskets.
Yeah.
It ensured not only their sheer survival, but also their integrity as an applied curriculum.
It did. And here's a final provocative thought for you to consider. The vastness of the 84,000 components of the Dharma is often understood not as 84,000 physical texts, but as 84,000 methods or perspectives of teachings, a potential remedy for every conceivable type of delusion the human mind can create. So, given the incredible level of quantification we just analyzed, the question for you is this. If the content teaches impermanence, how does the act of meticulously organizing knowledge into these precise, stable, numerical, and categorical structures contribute to the wisdom contained within it? Does the very stability and logic of the structure make the ultimate truth, the impermanence of all things, somehow more accessible? Something to chew on until our next deep dive.